Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to the puzzle chapter of this course. In this chapter, basically, we'll be building a new puzzle from ground up and we'll be going through every single mechanic together. And it's a very simple script, but highly effective. And the end result actually looks amazing. So stick around and follow along. And it's going to be a bit of a long session, but it's worth it. Let's jump into it. All right, guys, to set up our puzzle, let me just walk through exactly what we are building here. So the way this puzzle works is, guys, this guy over here, the skeleton, we're gonna add basically a trigger around this guy so that when you walk in this zone and the instruction text which we built in the previous video will pop up and say press left mouse button to pick up or something like that. When you do that, the instruction text will appear, right? So basically, actually, we will just map a different key for it, or M or something for map or something like that, right? So you can always bring it back. So after you pick up this book, you basically have that riddle paper with you that you can always bring up and look at anytime, right? So with that riddle, basically what we expect is the right crystal to be placed in the correct basin over here. There's three types of crystals. There's a green one, red, and blue, right? So basically the riddle says that the green one should go here if you figure out the riddle. Just gonna shortcut here. And then the red one should be placed in the fire and the blue one should be in the water. That's what the riddle basically indicates. It's a very simple puzzle and you can definitely make it more complex, but for the sake of this lesson and for you guys to easily digest puzzle design, we're just gonna go ahead with this. So essentially what we do is I've already done this step just to save time. You guys can do the same thing. I've placed in some crystals here. So in your game, it can be crystals, it can be something else. It's up to you. Essentially what I've done is I've created a trigger around these crystals. And I made it a trigger here. And I've added the objective trigger, which we've built in the previous lesson as sort of a heads up text display here. So when you walk into this zone, it's going to say left click to pick up, right? So left click to pick up. So basically it'll show up for 3 seconds. So you know that you have to left click while you're within this zone, right? And I've also tagged them as green crystals, right? So make sure to tag your triggers if you want something to happen while you're in that zone, so you can basically detect what this zone is, right? So I've tagged this as green crystals, and I've done the same thing for these guys. They are actually blue crystals, and it's the same thing here, and then red crystals over here. Right, and then I've actually done the same thing for this. So for this basin, I'm just gonna name it red basin. All right, so player's not gonna see these names, guys, so it's fine. This one's green basin. Sorry about the Discord notification. Let me just exit that. This one is the blue basin. So guys, we know exactly that these are the three basins that the player should go to, and when they do, they basically get another instruction here. So I've done the same thing. I've added a box glider, which is a trigger, and I've added a objective here that says left click to place, right? So what we expect players to do is to go to these crystals and pick them up. And when we pick up, we're not gonna physically show the player picking them up. We're just gonna display text saying, picked up. And basically we expect the correct crystals to be placed. So when they go to these zones and press the left mouse button, those crystals will be placed over here. So we're just gonna spawn them over here, right? So that's basically how this puzzle works. And let me show you guys how these texts are now showing up once you have this set up all good. So let's see. There have it, guys. So those are the basic instruction texts that show up. So what we got to do now is the actual puzzle mechanic script, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brand new script here. I'm going to right click, new script. I'm going to call it I'm going to call it crystal puzzle. All right. So we kind of want every puzzle to have its own, sorry about that. We kind of want every puzzle to have its own script so that you can separate that mechanic from everything else. So go ahead and do that, guys. All right, guys. So crystal puzzle is something I'm going to code with you. So the way this should work is simply, we should know when the player is holding on to certain crystals, right? So we're going to have certain booleans. We're going to have 3 booleans in place, holding blue crystal, holding red, holding green. And then when you walk into this zone and when you left click, basically, we're going to hold it. So we're going to assume that the player has, is basically holding it, right? So we're going to display some sort of text here that says you're holding onto this crystal or something. So ideally that should be like a little green crystal icon or something like that so that the player knows. But we're not going to go too deep into it. I'll let you guys definitely figure that out. And then you guys can, spend a lot of time and then, add more things to it. All right. So here's what we can do. Public bool is holding red. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing 3 times. Is holding blue, is holding green. All right. That's it. So with that, guys, what we're going to do next is, when the player walks into certain trigger zones, we're going to have those conditions in place now. So other.gameObject.compare tag. What's the tag we're comparing? Let's just compare the green crystals first. Is it crystals or crystal? Let me just double check. Green crystals, red crystals, blue crystals. Perfect. All right. So if you're in this zone, what we're going to say is we're going to have another set of booleans, guys, right? Is near green. Is near green. Just keep it short, right? So is near red. Is near blue. All right, so we're simply going to say is near green is true when you're in the green crystal zone, right? So that way, now what we're going to do is if input dot get mouse button down 0 when they press the left mouse button, if they are basically is near red, right? Is near red, hold on, is near red, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a brand new method here called private bool is holding anything. Okay, is holding anything, so that basically is holding anything. What it's going to do is it's going to check if you're holding anything at all, right? What I'm thinking though is that if you're holding red, you should be able to go and hold a green one instead, right? So maybe you shouldn't have this. We'll just simply say, okay, I've got an idea. Private void drop crystals, right? So it should be possible for the player to drop the crystals, right? So is near red, we're simply going to say if they press left mouse button in the red zone, we're going to say is holding red is true. You've just picked it up, right? Picked up red. And same thing goes here. I'm just going to do else if is near green is holding green. All right, same thing. You repeat it. It's just pure logic, guys. Is holding blue. All right, so picked up blue, picked up green, and so on and so forth. So this way we can pick things up, right? Now let's say you've already picked things up. Let's say you're already holding red, but you're not trying to pick up green, right? This is where drop crystals is going to come into play. So before we hold something new, we're simply going to say drop crystals, and we're going to call that every time here. And simply what we're going to do is in drop crystals, we're going to make all 3 of them false. Does that make sense? What we're doing is basically resetting whatever we are holding to false. That way you can pick up something new. All right, awesome. Now this way we can actually pick up stuff. All right. What I want to show now is basically I'm going to go a public text mesh pro UGUI. All right, and I'm going to import this TMP Pro. I'm going to say puzzle instruction or puzzle instruction or something, text or something like that. So it's basically the text in the bottom right or something. So that shows whatever that you're doing. It's just going to give you feedback. So when you're holding red, you're simply going to say this text is we're going to say red crystal, so that we know that we actually have it with us. So that's like a little mini version of an inventory system, right? Without overcomplicating it. So blue crystal, since we can only carry one thing, guys, this will work. Green crystal, right? I'm also going to add a inventory system to the bonus chapter, so check it out for a more complex version of this, but this is simply the simple version of it because we only carry one thing at once here, right? Awesome. So this should already work. Let's save this. Let's go over to, one more thing. Before, when you actually drop crystal, you want to make sure that you clear this text, or else it's just going to show, it's just going to keep showing. So we clear it out and we pick up the new thing. Awesome. So let's go over to Unity. Let's set this thing up. So what I'm going to do is, guys, I'm going to go to player and I'm going to include new script in here. So we got our existing scripts, but I'm going to add our crystal puzzle to the player. That's fine. That'll work. So we're not going to check any of this in Unity because we only added it to see if our logic is correct, but later we're going to make this private. Okay. So what we need now is some sort of instruction text in the canvas. So click the canvas, go to scene here, which is our 2D view. And I'm going to right click, UI, text mesh pro. We'll call that puzzle instruction text. So this one is, I'm going to make it a bit bigger and I'm going to add the same font. And I'm going to put that over here. And I'm going to set the anchoring to bottom right. And I'm also going to align the text to the right so it looks better. There we go. That should be good. And I'm going to clear this text. Now, let's go back to the player, and in the player, in this slot, we're simply going to drag puzzle instruction text. You guys should be familiar with this workflow by now. Let's test it out. So if I go to the green, crystal and press left mouse button, green crystal, do you guys see that in the bottom right? We picked it up. Now, wherever you go, that's already there, so we know that it's actually picked up. And let me just show you something. If I pause this game, right now it says he's holding green. Oh, he's near green. We need to uncheck this as well. That's something we gotta do. All right, so this is not gonna work. It's almost there. We forgot to do one thing, guys. So on trigger enter, we also need a on trigger exit. We're missing that. So if you walk out of the green crystals, you're going to say is near green false. All right. So we also need the same thing for the other crystals, guys. Like I said, guys, it's pure logic. So just make sure that you cover all your bases. You should be good to go. So blue, whoops, don't make any typos because it's the same tag. And this will be is near red. Okay. This one will be is near blue. There we go. And I'm gonna copy these two and put them here to make sure these are false. Does that make sense, guys? So when we walk into a trigger, when we walk into a trigger, we check if it's the green crystal zone. If so, we make it true for the other crystals as well. When we walk out of a trigger, we check if we walked out of the green crystal zone. If we did, we make it false. All right, let's test this. Now I should be able to pick up a crystal and still hold it and go to another crystal and pick that one up. So when you do that, it'll drop whatever that you're holding and it'll pick up the new crystal. Awesome, we picked up green crystal. We'll go to blue zone. Okay, we picked up blue tongue twister, blue crystal. I'm gonna leave that in because it's funny. Red crystal, there we go. Awesome, so the pickup system works, guys. Now it's all about the placement system. All right, there we go. Red crystal, brilliant. That works. Fantastic. This is looking so good, guys. I'm super excited to finish the game. And basically now in these zones, guys, we have 3 zones. We've got red basin, blue basin, green basin, and blue basin. These tongue twisters, man. There's a lot of tongue twisters today. We're going to create 3 tags here, guys. Very similar to the crystals, but green basin. And we need another one, blue basin. And we need another one, red basin. There we go. Now we're going to go and tag these. So this is the blue basin, red basin, and green basin. So similarly, guys, what we're going to do now is when you walk into those zones, so I'm going to tag this as, I'm going to comment this as crystals. And here I'm going to say crystals as well. And we need another section here called basins. So very similar, guys. What we're going to do is if you walk into the green basin, you know that you're near the green basin. So we're going to create new variables here. Public bool. We're going to say public bool is near. Sorry about those notifications. It's just my emails and my Discord going off. So is near green basin. We're going to create 2 more. We're going to say is near red basin and is near blue basin. Sorry, this video is going to be quite long, but I'll try and get through it real fast. All right, is near green basin. So we're going to put that there, and then we're going to say else is near, that will be red basin, that'll be red basin, copy and paste this here. That's going to be blue basin. All right, is near blue basin. And I'm going to basically copy these and paste them here. And then simply say false for all 3 of these. So we know when the player walks away from a green basin as well, or a blue or red basin. All right, next up, what we're going to do is when you're in that zone, guys, when you press the left mouse button. Now we're done with the triggers, guys. We're actually done with them. Now let's go back to the mouse click. When you press the left mouse button, when you're near crystals, right now we pick it up, right? So let's say picking up crystals. Now let's create the opposite of this, placing crystals. Very straightforward, guys. What we're gonna do is if is near, we'll go with the same order. So near a red basin, and we also gotta check, guys. We also gotta check and is holding red. Should we allow them to make mistakes? We should allow them to make mistakes, right? So they should be able to place the wrong crystal in the wrong basin. Okay, so which means we'll just let them do that. So is near red basin. Should we though? I'm just thinking. Yep, so we should let them make mistakes, right? So if they're near red basin and they press the left mouse button and they're holding something, we're gonna spawn whatever they're holding on the basin, right? Doesn't matter what type of crystal it is, we're gonna spawn it. If they obviously get it right, great. If not, we're not gonna do anything. We're not gonna show any feedback, none of that. So that obviously will put the player in a very confused state as to what they're doing wrong. So they should be figuring it out using the riddle system, right? So essentially what we're going to do now is if they're holding onto something, we're going to spawn whatever they're holding, right? So how do we check if they're holding onto something? What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a private bool is holding something. All right, so if it's just going to say if is holding blue, or is holding green, or is holding red. If they're holding any of these, we're going to say return true, or else we're going to say return false, right? So the way this works is, guys, it's pretty much like saying if they're holding anything at all, any of these 3, we're going to simply say they're holding something, right? Else we return false. That way, guys, we can just, you know, not spawn anything if they're not holding anything. So if they're near a red basin and is holding something, we're just gonna spawn whatever they are holding. All right. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna basically add another condition here. If is holding blue, spawn blue crystal. All right. It's the same thing here. Else if is holding green, else if is holding red, so on and so forth, right? So where are we gonna spawn this? First of all, we need references to whatever we are holding, right? One thing I'm gonna do, guys, is making them all private because we don't really need to know what they're holding, what they're not holding. So we can just make it private. What we can do to help out here is public game object green crystal. All right, so we need prefabs to all three types of crystals, guys: red, blue, and green. And we also need references to wherever we gotta spawn them. We gotta know exactly where to spawn them. So green basin spawn point. So we know exactly where to spawn the green where to spawn in the green basin, where to spawn in the red basin, where to spawn in the blue basin. So whatever they're holding, it's going to be spawned in this point. Does that make sense? So what we're going to do now is we'll just do it for one. We'll just do it for the hold on, let me just get rid of these. We'll just do it for the red basin only and see if it works, and then if so, we just have to copy and paste it for the other two basins. All right, so if they're near red basin and they're holding something, if they're holding blue, we're simply going to spawn the blue, right? So instantiate, what are we going to instantiate? Blue crystal. Where are we going to instantiate it? The red basin spawn point dot transform dot position in the quaternion, which is basically quaternion dot identity, which is basically saying the default rotation. You're going to spawn this one here, right? And then we're going to do the same thing for the other two as well. All right, so this is going to be green crystal and this is going to be red crystal. Perfect, that's it. So we're done with that. We'll go test it out. Now only this basin will work because we've only configured it for this basin, but if it works for this, it's going to work for these two as well. All right, pretty straightforward. What we're going to do now is go to red basin, guys. We're going to right click and we are gonna actually, you know what, there's already a little image in here. So this is gonna be the spawn point. I already have one in here, guys, in the center. So if you guys want, you guys can do the same thing. I've just added those as images in there, so I can use those as a spawn point. All right, spawn point. So they're just in the center. I just want something in the center, so that's why I use them. Awesome. Just something in the center of this basin so we know where to spawn them. That means, guys, what we need to now do is simply go to the player, and in the player now we just got to drag all of these things in. So the green basin spawn point, where is that? Let's find it. Green basin spawn point is this, blue basin spawn point is this, and then red basin spawn point is this. Perfect. Now all we need is this 3 crystals. I've got a great pack for it. I've put the link down below as well. You guys can use the same crystal pack. I'm just trying to find where they are. Loading ports. Not that one. Not that one. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Rocks. Necklace. Oh, this one. Yep. Prefabs. I've got the blue ones, green ones, and the red ones. Guys, these 3. So this one's the blue one. Geez, they could have renamed it. I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. So this one's blue, this one's red, this one's green. Awesome. So last step, guys, last step. So just click on the player, simply drag in the green crystal here as a prefab, blue crystal over here, red crystal over there. And then we should be good to go, hopefully. Let's test it out. Let's pick up a green crystal, right? Picked it up. Let's go here. Whoa, it works, but it's too big. It's massive, guys. It's huge. All right, here's what actually looks kind of cool though. What we're gonna do, guys? That's massive. All right. We can easily change the scale of this. So let me just have a look at what the scale of this is. I think the scale is, I don't know, 0.1 or something. So what I'm gonna do, guys, is game object new crystal. Right. So we're gonna simply say dot transform dot scale equals new vector 3 0.2f 0.2f 0.2f, and there you go. That should be small. We're gonna add the same thing here. What we did here, guys, was we instantiated a new crystal and we basically changed the scale of that to be smaller, right? Oops, I meant to do 0.2. Perfect. Save. Go. Oops. Go back here. Perfect. And let's try it out. Picked it up. There you go. That works. And although that happens, guys, can you take a guess why? It's because the crystals are not parented in the basin, so we got to do that as well. But yeah, that works. I'm gonna test it out for the other crystals as well. Just gonna pick this up and go here. Awesome, guys, that works. That works. So let's go ahead and parent these as well. So how do we parent this? It's very straightforward, guys. New crystal dot transform. We're referring to the transform, and we're simply saying set parent. You guys will remember this the more you do it. All right, this is how we parent something. So we select the crystal, new crystal dot transform dot set parent. What is going to be the parent? We are in the red basin, right? So it's going to be red basin. Oops. Oh yeah, it's going to be red basin spawn point dot transform. That's how we parent it. Now let's do the same thing here, and that should work. Let's have a look. I'm gonna test out the red now, so the correct one. Awesome, picked it up. Let's go over here. That works. Look at that, that's beautiful. Now it's going up and down with the basin. Glorious, glorious. That looks amazing. All right, let's go. So we're gonna basically apply the same thing to the other two crystals as well, guys. I'm gonna skip to that part just to save you some time. Awesome, guys. I've got the same setup here for the blue basin and the green basin, so that should work now. So let's get over here and test it out. Guys, I've included the scripts for this down below. You guys can basically reuse the same. Nice. Pick this up. Red crystal. I'm gonna do stuff wrong now. Beautiful. Nothing happens, right? Perfect. Awesome. That works. Now what we're gonna do, guys, is they should be able to correct their mistakes, right? So if they actually pick up another crystal and move over there and try to spawn something, we should be able to pretty much do the same thing, but we're gonna destroy whatever is in the center. So it's pretty much like the drop crystals thing that we did earlier, but this time we're gonna call it private void remove crystal from basin. Very English meaningful method here. So remove crystal from basin, right? So what we're gonna do is, guys, we're gonna get a transform of some sort, basin, and we're simply gonna do destroy whatever is parented to it, right? So we're gonna do destroy basin dot get child. So we get the first child inside of that spawn point and we destroy it. And we're gonna call this at every spawn point here, right? So if we, whatever that we are holding here, so we're simply gonna call this here, and we're gonna say red basin spawn point dot transform, and then we're gonna basically do the same thing here. We're just simply passing in the spawn point, guys, to that method, and it just lets us correct our mistakes. And then it'll spawn the new thing. All right, we destroy whatever is in the basin, and then we spawn whatever the player is now holding. All right. Now, one more thing, guys. After you place something, we gotta get rid of that. We gotta drop whatever we're holding, right? Because we've already placed that, right? So very simple. After we do the placement, we simply call our drop crystals. See how we reuse methods, which is basically how we gotta do coding most of the time. And I know that this whole thing can be simplified even more, but this makes sense, guys. And we gotta try and keep things as simple as possible, and then we optimize later. Oops, sorry. Let's go pick it up. Drop it. Whoop, I didn't drop it. Hey, why can't I place? I think I broke something. Transform child out of bounds. Whoops. So, yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, that basin didn't have anything, but we're trying to remove something. All right. So, what we're going to do is before we destroy, we simply got to check if the basin actually has a child. So, I think what we can do is child count is not equal to 0. If the child count is not equal to 0, meaning something is parented inside of it, we destroy. Or else, if it is 0, meaning there's nothing in the basin, we just skip it. We don't really destroy anything. All right? That should work. That should work. And that's basically our logic for it. Let's check it out. Exciting. All right, did I pick it up? I picked it up now. Place it. Awesome. Pick up the red. Place it over there. Pick up this, and let's place it over here. Now say I want to correct something. I want to take the blue, and I want to replace this guy. Whoops, that did not work. There's a crash there. Can't destroy transform component. If you want to destroy the game, please destroy please destroy the game object instead. I'm glad these are happening while we're doing it, because then you guys can correct the same thing. It's because, guys, we were trying to destroy the transform. Just the position component, right? We can't destroy just this transform component. Instead, we should destroy the game object instead. All right. So what we just did was get child 0, the first child's game object. That's what we can destroy. All right. Let's check it out once again. All right. We're gonna place it over here. Now say, didn't I pick it up? I thought I picked it up. Okay. There we go. And say I want to correct it, so pick up the red and I go here. There you go. Instead of the green, now we place that, and we can now easily correct our mistakes and try different variations. Looks good, guys. There you have it. And basically what we're gonna do now is when the player correctly places all 3 of them, we're gonna spawn our necklace. So let me just do that by setting up some conditions, and I'll show you the code. Alright guys, that code is complete. Let me just walk you through what I've actually done. So very straightforward. What I did first was I created a new method called check if correct, right? Very straightforward. Check if correct. So what I'm doing is we're actually checking if the tag is basically correct. So red basin, green basin, blue basin, and then we basically compare and check if the red crystals are in the red basin, and if so, it becomes correct. Is red correct? And then same goes for green, and same goes for blue as well. I think I made a mistake over here. So is blue correct? Blue basin, so on and so forth. This one should be switched around. So this one should be is red correct, and so on and so forth. There we go. Red basin, red crystals is green, green crystals, blue, blue. So if it is correct, guys, what we're gonna do is we're gonna play a victory sound effect, which is basically an audio source that's up here. So every time you play something, guys, every time you play something here, after we drop whatever we are holding, we call the check if correct. We call the check if correct, right? Every time you make a change to the basins, we call check if correct. So every time you get it right, I mean, you only get it once. You only get it right once, we play the victory sound effect. All right, so that's exactly what we're gonna do now. So if you don't get it right, it's not gonna do anything. So it's not gonna give any feedback to the player. You can if you want to make it easy, but I feel like if you don't give feedback for those kind of things, it kind of gets the player thinking even more. And if you get it right, obviously you'll see the necklace appear and you hear the sound effect as well. So one thing though, I just have to tag these guys. So crystal 1 blue, I have to tag it as sorry, blue crystals. I had to tag the red one as red crystal. I had to tag the green one as green crystals. So these are the 3 prefabs that we use, guys. Now what we got to do here is we simply go to the player, and then the player needs a victory sound effect. So I'm gonna get another audio source here, right? And then this audio source. So any game object can have multiple audio sources, guys. It's just that we gotta link them. So I'm gonna drag and drop this here so it gets linked here, and this will have some sort of audio clip for victory. I'm gonna remove play on a Vic, I'm gonna remove loop, and that's it. Now I just gotta bring in a nice audio clip for it. So guys, I've got a win sound effect over here, which we're gonna drag into the player. I've included these sound clips as well, guys, for you guys to use. So I'm gonna go to my victory audio source and drag this win sound here. Now that's it, guys. Let's test this out. Hopefully it'll work. So I'm gonna pick up the green guy. I'm gonna put it in the green basin. That's correct. Red one in the red basin, and blue one in the blue basin, guys. Yes, that worked, guys. As you guys can see, I got the sound clip, and we just completed our first puzzle, and we completed the game. That's it, guys. That is for this challenge. Essentially what you can do next is spawn the necklace, and basically that ends the game. Congratulations, guys, on finishing your first game. Now feel free to watch these lessons again and again until you're fully confident that you can build a game on your own, and then move on to the next few lessons where we'll be building up a game menu and pretty much getting this game ready for deployment. I'll see you guys in the next one.